Good morning or afternoon, Year 11. I just want to run you through your hazards assessment improvers. The first thing to say, if you haven't done your assessment, obviously you need to do that first. If you have, you'll have got a number of voice notes. If it's Mr. Tomset, you may have got some comments if you've got a different teacher, and those will be your targets to work on. Now, in this document, in this assignment, you'll have a GC version PDF, hazards, which is the actual assessment, just to remind you of the questions. And obviously you'll need to go back to your previous assignment, which was Year 11 hazards assessment, for your answers. So I just want to talk through the mark scheme very quickly. You'll have some notes on the larger questions, most likely, or some targets. So the first thing to consider is just how you revised. How much of your notes did you use? I don't want you to write these out necessarily this time, but it's just there for your information. Now, depending who your teacher was and whether they made a mistake like I did, they may have marked it out of 30 because they forgot to add spag on. The grade boundaries are roughly the same. And remember, this was you may have done this open book, so just be aware that if you got a grade 9 doesn't necessarily mean you're working at a grade 9, okay? But it's worth thinking how many marks you are off the next grade. So for most of these questions, hopefully the mark scheme just gives you the right answer and helps to direct you. Okay, so I'm not going to necessarily talk through too many of them. One thing I will say is if you got things like the plate margins wrong and you thought that it wasn't a destructive margin where the plates are moving together, it's maybe worth doing some revision of that. Okay, so you've got the answers there. You can look at these. Now 1.4 was about how plates movements cause tectonic hazards in Iceland. You had to use figure 2 and your own understanding. Now, to get full marks here, you had to talk about both earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, or talk about a number of volcanic hazards that occur and kind of how they occur. So that's what you needed to get the level 3 marks, 5 to 6 marks. If you need more information, most of it is in this area here. Okay, it tells you how earthquakes happen here. It tells you how volcanic activity happens here. Again, the next one's relatively straightforward. Natural causes of climate change. Few people mixed up those, but most of you got it. 2 pieces of evidence other than changing global temperature, again, was pretty well answered. Then we're on to our 4-mark question, which again was relatively well answered. You had to explain how both fossil fuels and agricultural changes, so farming changes, have contributed. There's a paragraph on each here in case you didn't get it. Okay, you may have got a comment from a teacher as well on what you need to focus on. 1.9, 1.10, 1.11 are about Hurricane Irma. The key thing that some people got wrong, when it says describe the track, it's not talking about wind speed. Track means like the direction that something has come along, or the pathway something has come along. So you had to use directions. West initially, then it started to go north as it moved over the Dominican Republic, for example. That would help you. Otherwise, most people answered these really well. And then we're on to question 1.12 or 1.12. Assess the extent to which tropical storms have effects on people and the environment. The general comment I'd make here is lots of people could tell me effects on people and the environment, but normally people assess the extent to which. So do they have it more on people, more on the environment? Does it depend on the type of storm, the severity of the storm, the wealth of the country? For example, in Irma, it said something like 8 people had died compared to 6,000 in Typhoon Haiyan. So we've got some comparative data there. To get into level 3, you really need to apply that knowledge to really assess the extent. Otherwise, you're kind of stuck in level 2. Okay. There's some indicative content. effects. Be careful, don't just copy these. Some people use the mark scheme when they were completing the work, and they end up copying these out. These are useless on their own. They need explanation with them. Okay. And they need to link to the question. So for example, if you said effects on the environment include storms flooding large area, if you just listed it, well, to what extent? Well, actually, storms flooding large areas of the coast has destroyed this amount of this place, which means that this is why the environment effects are so much greater. So if you're talking about and applying it, then it makes sense. If you're just taking snippets from the mark scheme, it won't help you at all. Okay, but lots of information there to help you improve. But remember, take a snippet, explain it, expand on it, and link it to your targets that you've been given. Hopefully that's helpful. I'd like you to improve it on the document that you initially worked on, whether that's paper or the Google Doc. Maybe choose a different font or a different pen color so it's really clear. You could put it after each question, or you could write at the bottom of the page. It's up to you. See how many you can improve. Okay, you may be able to improve them all in an hour, or you may only be able to improve some of them. Okay, whichever ones you manage to get done, that's absolutely fine. Good luck.